All right, hey guys, I am here today with Rob Hilditch, who is the managing partner over at Hardings. So thanks for spending some time with me this afternoon.
I'm sorry for being late.
It's all good. I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about Hardings. So let's start off with that. Can you tell us, what do you guys do?
Sure. Well, we're what I would call an improvement company. The majority of our business is painting, but we also have a cleaning division, ceiling texturing, so like popcorn ceiling removal is what most people be familiar with.
Nice.
And then handymans and small renovations as well.
Awesome. And I understand that you joined the business a little bit later than when it was actually founded. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we were founded in 1996
Okay.
by Dalton Harding, our namesake. And his group, he was an old college pro guy for painting, and started to grow his own little business called Hardings Painting, and started having some other painters work for him, subcontractors, what we call in our industry. And at one point in time, he's like, "Hey, I don't want a franchise kind of license this." So he started going to all those painters and saying, "Hey, you guys want to buy this neighborhood? You want to buy that neighborhood?" So we started a rudimentary franchise system.
Okay.
Over time, he wanted to go on a mission as he got older, kind of pull back from the business. So in 2011, he sold it to the licensees, or at least a group of the licensees.
Okay.
Stayed on as a partner with us. Those licensees at that time had some great ideas, and Achilla Jascosi is one of my major partners now. Was the president of the company at the time and grew it to have all our new divisions. And about 2.5 years ago, it was time to go to the next chapter and talk about what our franchising world would look like. So they started sourcing people to come on board to take it what we call Chapter 3,
Okay.
or the third chapter. And so I interviewed with them. I liked the concept of what they were doing, from being a franchising guy the previous 16 years to that in restaurants. Going to all the franchise shows, I saw the value of what this service industry was going to be, especially with the millennial world. So I kind of jumped at the opportunity and was able to come in as a partner.
Nice.
And now the managing partner.
How very interesting. And so are you guys based only here in Calgary or in Alberta?
We are based in Calgary, and we have one location in Kelowna, BC as well that does painting and handyman.
Nice. And so with the franchising model, is the big play to move in wider geography?
Certainly.
Okay.
Western Canada is the goal right now, but we will segment it to smaller markets. So come probably this spring, if not late next fall, depending on what the market looks like this year, we'll start in Edmonton. So we'll really kind of focus on advertising in that marketplace.
Nice.
Start there. And then from Edmonton, maybe move down to Lethbridge, Red Deer area as well. Kind of start with a core in Alberta and then expand from there.
Nice. And I'm curious, so you mentioned kind of Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. Was there any reasoning why that's named in that way?
So Chapter 1 was the Dalton era.
Okay.
So when he first started after the college pro, turned it into the licensing division, and then Chapter 2 became when Attila became the president,
Okay.
and we started to grow the services. And at that time, that's where the Hardings Services came in, because it was Hardings Painting before. And then so Chapter 3 was, okay, well let's expand this, let's grow it, let's find someone who knows franchising. And so my part has become Chapter 3.
Okay.
And Chapter 3 has been a complete flip of its head from what they were used to doing.
Right.
We've rebranded. We got rid of Handyman Services. It's the legal name of the company, but now it's Hardings Your Improvement Company. So we've rebranded, new logo, try to make it a little bit more modern and a little more acceptable to franchising.
That's great. And I'm curious then, what was the motivation behind moving from just painting to other services?
Just organically, we were getting customers asking us if we could do this or that or whatever it may be. Attila had the keen insight and had some friends that were doing other different types of those divisions.
Okay.
So it was a natural kind of slide into it. So we brought in, a few different divisions and started adding to them. Stuff that was that's what I'm looking for. That melded well together with what we were already doing.
Okay.
And organically, we just we get the leads because the customers are saying, "Oh, well, you know someone who can do this?" Well, yeah, we can. So now we've become kind of a one-stop shop
Cool.
for a lot of people, especially with the handyman division.
Right.
Handyman and painting, and as we franchise, those are the two divisions that will be the forefront
Okay.
for that. Ceiling texturing is a huge part of our business as well, but that kind of gets pulled into the painting side.
That makes sense.
So that's kind of where it came from, just organically, because people were looking for other things to be done in their home when we were there as a painter.
That makes total sense, and from what I've seen, especially in the Calgary market, there is a lack of handyman services. You can find lots of large general contractors or people that want to take on a whole job, but not normally somebody that will come in and help with just needing their windows done or just wanting, doors, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's certainly we have quite a few competitors in the marketplace, but nothing like we do with painting.
Okay.
And ceiling texturing is the same way. It's a unique part of the business. As far as handyman's concerned, like the guy that we have as our licensee for the Calgary market is just, I could use 3 more handymen.
Huh.
I don't know if he wants them, but we could certainly use them because the leads that we provide him and the amount of work that he's able to do, we just don't, there's not enough hours in the day. And it's all those small jobs, right? And I hate to pick on millennials, but it's one of those things where that marketplace is something that, and it's, you know what, I'm a Gen Xer and I look at my kids being Gen Z, or is that what they be, younger ones? I don't even know what they are now, but yeah, Gen Z. I don't spend enough time with teaching them how to swing a hammer, right? And I own an improvement company, so it's when I look at that age group, the handyman really what melds well to what is happening in that marketplace. So I see that as one of our biggest performers going forward.
No, that makes total sense. When you talk about, who is a good fit for your services, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Like, I'm sure anybody can use a handyman, but who is this best suited to?
Quite honestly, right now, I'd say the majority of the market isn't the millennials, but it's older people.
Okay.
I'd definitely say an older demographic of 60 plus.
Okay.
Where either they don't have the skill sets, they don't have the tools, or just don't have the time, and they're able to do it that way as far as handyman is concerned. And then we certainly do get that millennial group that I'm talking about, and my age group too, where guys they're not handy, right? There's a lot of people that just aren't. So it's a small jobs where it's, door handles, I remember a lady, it's a funny story, when I first started, a lady had called, she's in Springbank in a very nice house, has done well for herself, and her husband had passed away recently, and she called and said, I can't get into my garage. And this is where the light went off for me. I'm like, well, okay, just hit the garage door opener. And she says, well, no, I can't, my car's in the garage, and I can't get into the garage. So it's front car garage. Right. Has like the mudroom that goes into the garage area. Right. And what had happened is that her door handle had come displaced. So the little rod between the two sides of the handle had broken or come displaced. And so she couldn't physically open the door. And so I'm like, oh, well, just, go around the outside and use the man door. You understand? I can't, it's locked. And I'm thinking to myself, well, just use the key. She leaves her keys in the car. So when she pulls up, she lives in a neighborhood, it's gated community, everything else. So she wasn't worried about that. She's always leaving her keys in the car, and she's stuck out of her garage. This is like 3 days before Christmas.
Oh no.
And my handyman was away back home in Hungary for Christmas. So I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. I jumped in my truck and I go out there. And it took me about 10 seconds to fix it. Right. And she's like, no, here, take this money. I'm like, I'm not taking any money. It's 3 days before Christmas. She was desperate. She had family coming over for Christmas, wanted to cook dinner, all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, so we can help. But that's where I'm like, these small little jobs that nobody is willing to do,
right,
is really where the market can be at. So it was that day when I went, okay, on the franchising side, the handyman is going to be one of the key components.
I love it. I really love it. And I've noticed a lot in the industry that there's been a big movement to what I call kind of DIY, where you've got players coming in like, JobJar or TaskRabbit, some of those type of companies where they're connecting, an end service provider with the homeowner, but I still see that it doesn't really service the need that you guys are actually addressing.
So our tagline now is ditch the DIY.
I love it.
So don't do it. No more DIY.
Yeah.
Stop doing it. Just right now. I started doing that about a year ago. Came to me in the shower, of course. But it really is that. Like, stop doing it. I think people are like, yeah, I love DIY, but there's people who are accustomed to doing it, and there's ones that just really shouldn't do it. I'm a guy who shouldn't do it.
That's fair.
You can ask my wife. I should not be touching anything in our home.
Okay.
And so I'm that guy. And it's one of those things where it's just like, when you start considering how much time it takes you, the tools you've got to buy, the energy it takes, and the arguing you have to have with your spouse or significant other or whatever it may be, it's just not worth it. Ditch it. Ditch the DIY.
That makes very good sense to me. We actually had this conversation earlier today with some of our team about, what's the phrase? You think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait till you hire a rookie. And
Totally.
It's like, coming in, especially with, it's your home. If you mess something up, it's a big whoopsie. It's not just a simple fix all the time.
Years ago, when we moved into our house, my oldest daughter, who's from a separate marriage, she's sightless on the weekends, and I wanted to make sure she had her own bedroom. So I built a wall, and I never should have built a wall. And now my middle daughter lives in that room, and she wants a bigger bedroom. And so kind of us forcing her to make sure she's applying for new schools for post-secondary, we were like, okay, if you get into post-secondary, we'll give you a bigger bedroom. And there's no way I'm doing it. There's no way.
Yeah.
So our handyman division will be coming in
And doing it.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. So I'd love to shift gears a little bit and learn a little bit more about lessons you've learned along the way with growing the business. Anything that you can share that's kind of happened?
My biggest transition coming into this company, well, at the very beginning, it was kind of like a bull in a china shop.
Okay.
Our group was not very pragmatic. Maybe that's not the right word. We were stuck in a certain way of doing things, and it was, well, even though they needed to change, it was, well, that's not the way we've always done it. So I had to be a bull in a china shop to really push my way through. The big difference was, though, is that personalities. To this point in time, I've been involved with other businesses, but I've never really been the control, the lead guy. I've always been the right hand to the lead guy, and so take that transition for me, the learning curve for that, on having people that now depend on you to see what their future looks like, and having the courage to make those decisions without worrying about what the risk was. And I find with entrepreneurship, was really the key for me. For many, many years, my old employer, I loved working there. I still consider them all family. I'm involved in a charity now with my old boss. Nice. That meant a lot to me, that he was doing, that I got involved in as well. And so for me, like when I used to work for him, I always felt like I'd never say what I actually wanted to say, because I wasn't the boss. And you always have that little piece where you're worried that, am I going to get fired because I said that? Whereas now I just don't care. I say what I believe, and I just go after it. And so that was the learning curve for me, and I think that's the one thing that I've had to teach myself and that's what I look at. All the group that we have as our licensees, the reason that they've become successful, and the reason that we've been able to take Hardings from where it was 1996 to where it is now, is that they had no fear.
Right.
And that's something that I had to let go of to be able to match what we needed to do to grow, was that I had to let go of my fear. I was always operating from I can do this, but what happens if this happens?
Right.
Now I just don't care. Don't get me wrong, I care what happens, but I don't let it change my opinion of what I know I need to do to grow the business.
It takes a lot of self-work to get to that place.
It was hard.
It is really hard, and I think people underestimate the level of mental game that goes into actually leading a company and being able to own those challenges and go, that is the decision I made, and this is where we're going, even when you're scared half to death.
And so the big part there too is that owning your decision. So like I take pride in the ones I get right, but I'll admit to you immediately the ones I made wrong.
For sure.
I don't try to hide it under the carpet. If I make a mistake, okay, I made a mistake, what now?
Yeah.
Move to the next one.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Makes sense. This is a very bold question. What are you most scared of?
Failing.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Well, because I don't care anymore. No, with that attitude comes a lot of trepidation, because you look at it and you go, okay, well, great. I'm bold in China shop. I'm moving forward. I'm doing what I know here and here, what it's going to take to do this. Because over the last 15, 20 years that I was at my previous employer, because I was fearful of doing this or this, that fear's gone now.
Right.
So because I'm acting without fear, my biggest scare is failing.
Okay.
Because my goal, the whole reason I came to Harding, was to make it the largest painting franchise company in the country. That's my goal. That's what I want to do. Bold, you ask me.
It's good.
Yeah, so, and my greatest fear is not doing it.
Huh.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me in actually to the last question I have, which is, what's next? What's next for you guys?
You want the honest answer?
Yeah.
We're waiting.
Okay.
And that's part of the fear.
Okay.
There's just, with Alberta right now, my original plan for franchising was to go full bore and be involved in going after the new marketplace this spring in 2020. And right now we're kind of holding on because we're fearful of what the economy is going to do in this market. So what's next is going after that market. What next is growing it and just finding new franchisees, getting set up legally as the franchise that we are, which is happening as we speak, and then just spending a lot of money to try and bring in new opportunities so that we can sell new franchises and grow the brand. That's what's next, but there's fear involved with that as well right now, just because of what's happening in the economy. Now, I choose to be, what's what I'm looking for? Albertan. I don't know if you can say that better. I choose to, I think that we just work with a lot of tenacity, and we are not one of those provinces, as much as everything that's happening in the economy right now, and Wexit and all this other stuff that you can agree or disagree on. End of day, I'm Canadian. End of day, I'm Albertan, both. And I want to see us part of this. But at the same time, we just got to keep going, right? I don't want to worry about what people are talking about with Wexit and what this is happening. I don't want to worry about that. And the no fear part of me says just keep going. The guy that has a family to take care of and other shareholders to take care of and partners to take care of says, maybe we should hold on to some cash right now and just see what happens. So that part is scaring me right now.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because it is a real thing happening right now here in Alberta, but we're resilient. And you're right, we're Albertan. We can get through this.
And that's the thing I love about being Albertan, right?
Absolutely.
I was telling a story as we were walking upstairs up here, right? Just got that book, and about as far as my family history, and it started in Ontario when we first got to the country, but I'm fourth generation Canadian, if you want to call it, fourth or third. I think all of us are at one point in time, but Alberta became the home for both my sets of grandparents. So to me, even though I grew up in Vancouver originally, this is home. And this is where I want to be home. And I just, we have to speak the narrative because it's what's happening. At the same time, we just got to, bite our tongues and just keep going.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I very much appreciate your time and chatting with
you.
me and telling this story.
Awesome. Thank you very much.